Alright, what's going on, guys? Wayne Bean here, and today I would like to talk about the Switch 2 pricing situation and just talk about the Switch 2 reveal in general. It's been almost a week since it was revealed. It'll be a week and 2 days. And originally I wanted to make this video the day it happened. You know, I wanted to talk about it then, but then I was like, well, no, let me sit with my thoughts on it for a little bit. Let me figure out how I actually feel about this. You know, the pricing, the device, and everything, and then some more stuff obviously happened with the tariffs and everything, and now we won't be able to even pre-order it this week in the US, which is just we'll get into that in a bit. First, I'd like to just go over kind of my overall thoughts of the Direct and you know, the console itself. And I am a big Nintendo guy. I love Nintendo games. I love Mario games. I love Pokemon. I love Zelda. You know, I love all that shit. Kirby, F-Zero, Star Fox, Metroid. I love all those games. You know, growing up, my first console was a GameCube. When I was born in 1999, and you know, the GameCube came out 2001. That was my first console. I remember that Christmas getting that and getting Mario Kart Double Dash, and me and my sister playing that like all day. I remember getting that, and I don't remember what other game I got at the time, but I remember playing a lot of Mario Kart Double Dash. And like growing up, most of the games that I played, I were able to play on the GameCube. You know, I did eventually get a PS2 as well, but you know, like I played like Budokai 1 and Budokai 2 were on the GameCube. I'm pretty sure the only reason I got a PS2 was because I really wanted to play Budokai 3. And then of course Tenkaichi and those games came out, but I really wanted to play Budokai 3. And the Tenkaichi games are my favorite Dragon Ball games. Tenkaichi 3 to be exact. But you know, the reason I got a PS2 was for Budokai 3 because that wasn't on. Ooh, I hit my mic, I'm sorry. Because Budokai 3 was not on the GameCube for whatever reason. I don't actually know why they did that, but it's got nothing to do with, you know, that. But basically what I was just trying to say is that I have always played Nintendo games. You know, I've had the GameCube, I've had the Wii. Oh my God, I've had the Game Boys, I've had the DS, the 3DS. I love the 3DS. Probably the 3DS might be my favorite Nintendo console. I mean, the 3DS just has so much charm to it and so many great games. You know, shaky launch for sure, and the price of that thing was insane when it came out. Especially with like what it had to offer, because it really had nothing. But love the 3DS. I didn't have a Wii U, as most people didn't. That was kind of a weird time in my life. I wasn't really even playing that many games. When I was, like, it was just pretty much Call of Duty with like some friends from time to time. But you know, I was a teenager when the Wii U came out, so I was going out, you know, doing shit. I wasn't really playing games on the weekend. But anyways, you know, I was actually very surprised with the Switch 2's unveil. The fact that it will be able to do 120 FPS. Now, you know, asterisks, it with some games, of course, it can do it, and you know, we'll actually see if any games actually hit that frame rate. But you know, the fact Nintendo isn't ever really like big hardware people, you know. And so the fact that they're pushing this 4K, they're pushing the higher refresh rates and shit is a good sign. You know, they are limited to how much they can do with the whole handheld aesthetic that they're going for. So, you know, and I don't want them to change. You know, I love how the Switch is. Recently, I've been playing the Switch more docked mode than I have handheld, mainly because I have an OLED monitor now. So like playing my OLED Switch, it doesn't really matter where I play it at now, I guess. But you know, I really am happy with the fact that they're kind of pushing the boundaries of their hardware. Obviously, this console will not be as powerful as your PS5 or your Series X or your PC, but it is nice to see them trying to do, you know, this doing this, you know, like pushing the boundaries of how other hardware, you know, because when the Switch came out, it was basically just a portable 360, which, you know, at that time, the PS4 and the Xbox One, you know, I think they had maybe just gotten their console refreshes, because this console came out in 2017, right? Yeah, I think so. March of 2017. So, you know, they had just gotten their console refreshes and stuff. So, like, it really wasn't like the Switch was like super, super far behind. And of course, it was a handheld, so, you know, it made sense. But it's nice that they're starting to, you know, try to get more on par. Now, I'm not a person that plays like all of their games on the Switch. You know, like during this direct, you know, we saw Cyberpunk, we saw a bunch of like big third-party games that will be coming, and I'm not one of those people that plays those games on my Switch. You know, that is so cool that you can take Cyberpunk on the go, but I can also do that with my ROG Ally X. You know, that's, you know, I don't know which one's more powerful in that regard, but like, I'm not playing these high demanding games on the go. When I play handheld, like with my Ally or with my Switch, I'm trying to play like games that I wouldn't like to sit at my computer and play for hours. So like my RPGs and shit, you know. The Switch is a little bit different because like I love playing like the Mario games and stuff at my desk. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I use my Ally X to play like Dragon Quest and Persona, like games that I'm going to be spending hundreds of hours in, so I can play it in my bed, so I'm not just sitting upright the whole time, you know, or like playing platformers and stuff, you know, games that doesn't really matter where I'm playing it at. So for me, a Switch is just a first party machine. I buy the Switch for, you know, the Donkey Kong that's going to be coming out, Mario Kart, you know, Mario, Pokemon, especially Pokemon. Like if the Switch didn't have Pokemon, I wouldn't probably buy the new console every time it came out. Like I would probably just wait until like the life cycle was done and get one for like hella cheap and then just play the games, and then, you know. But I mean, I do love, like, don't get me wrong, I do love the Zelda games and I love the Mario games, but not as much as like Pokemon, just as much as like the Spider-Man and like the God of War games are the sellers for PlayStation to me. Like I have to have a PlayStation to play those games. Like I must have it. I can't not play those games when they come out. That's what Pokemon is for the Switch for me. Like I have to play the new Pokemon game when it comes out. I can't not play the Pokemon game. I have to be there. But the big issue with the Switch 2 isn't the console's price. However, now it might be, just because of the tariffs and everything. We are yet to see what the new price is. You know, if while I'm editing this video, maybe it will come out, and if it does, I'll put it on the screen, but I don't believe it has. I checked this morning and they still haven't came out and said. But, you know, I remember at the end of the direct when they didn't show the price of the console, I was genuinely like worried for a second, because one, the tariffs hadn't even came into effect at that point yet. But I was like, damn, like they're not going to show off the price of this console. Like this console can't be more than $500 or no one's going to want to buy this, because then you run into the territory of, well, why buy this over a Steam Deck? And you do have the two different coins where it's like, well, what games do you want to play? Well, like while that is a thing, and it's like Nintendo, you know, they have the games that you can't get anywhere else, but it's like, if I'm spending my $500, and like that's all the money I have, and I can only get the one thing. Like I want to get the thing that allows me to play the most games with, you know, with like at the best way I can play the most games. You know what I'm saying? So like 500, you know, you're starting to compete with that PS5, with that Series X, with the Steam Deck, you know, and while like the console itself, right, is just $450 what they showed off, you obviously can't get the bundle for $500. I don't think there's any way they can, like, I think the console being at $400 to $450, I think was a perfect price. That's what I always said. I said there's no way it can be more than $400, which like doesn't mean like, oh, it can only be $400 and stop. Like it can't exceed over $400. You know what I mean? And so I'm very happy with the price of the actual console, but the problem is the games and the accessories. The Joy-Cons are now $90, which Joy-Cons were already expensive, and they get away with that because it's two controllers. And I get, you know, they have the HD Rumble, and the Joy-Cons do more than they're just controllers, you know, especially now they're like a mouse, but that feature is not going to be used at all. They harped on that feature so much. It's just going to be purely for mini games, like for these fucking Mario Party games, these 1-2 Switch games, maybe some Wii Sports shit if we ever get like another Nintendo Switch Sports, whatever. That feature is going to be completely useless. No one's going to use that. Maybe they'll let you use it for like a shooter like Splatoon or Fortnite if you want, but like that, but I don't know. It's going to be completely fucking useless. And I personally won't use that feature. But $90 for those controllers, and it did just come out today that they will not have Hall effect sticks. So like drift is going to probably still be an issue. And while I've only had drift happen to me one time because I don't really use my Joy-Cons. But the reason I don't use my Joy-Cons is because of drift. Like these shits are $80, man. Now they're 90, but it's like I don't want to constantly keep throwing this, money at these Joy-Cons if they're just going to break. And so that's a big problem. The Pro controller got bumped up to $10 more, which is just ridiculous because all they're really adding to the Pro controller is buttons on the back and then a headphone jack. And then they put the new C button on there. And that's just like and don't get me wrong, the Pro controller is actually probably my favorite gaming controller out right now. I love this. I love the Pro controller. I'm holding mine right now in my hand. I love this controller so much. It's so nice. It's so well made. I love the sticks on it. I love the D-pad. The shoulder buttons are so nice. It's got a great battery life. Great controller. 100% worth the money that I paid for it. But this new version that's $10 more that adds nothing is not. I'm sorry. It will be a great controller, but it really doesn't add anything. And I just think that's ridiculous. The webcam is like $50, whatever. Just don't buy that shit. I think they already said that you can hook up other webcams to it, which you should be able to. Any webcam that just you can hook up with a USB-C. The dock set, I think, is the standard price of how much the previous dock set was, maybe. I'm not for sure. But I mean, like, you shouldn't have to buy a dock set, at least unless you're buying just a tablet from somebody. But the games are the big problem right now. Mario Kart World is $80. $80 fucking dollars. Now, I've seen some places call it, say, 90. I've seen some places say 80. I think today it got confirmed for 80, but I still, until I see like a pre-order for the game, it's either 80 or $90. The issue with that is you have games also like the new Donkey Kong 3D platformer that's $70. Now, obviously, I think that like it is, games were $60 and now they've been 70 for quite a bit of time. And I remember when Tears of the Kingdom came out and they were charging $70 for that game, which, I'm not going to sit here and say that game didn't deserve to be $70, but I knew when they did that Nintendo was just testing the waters to see what they could get away with. And it was so scummy of them to charge $70 for the Legend of Zelda game because they know people are going to buy it. You're giving us the sequel to probably the biggest Zelda game ever. The most hyped Zelda game ever. It's the sequel to Breath of the Wild. And you're making it $70 to test if you can charge $70 for games. Like, of course you'll be able to. People are going to buy that game for $70. And Nintendo games never go on sale, so it's not like you have that. Like, you have people sitting around there like, well, I'll just wait. Because if Nintendo games go on sale, they only go on sale for like $20, man. Breath of the Wild is still fucking $60. And now that it's getting the Switch 2 version, it's now $70 for the Switch 2 version, yes. But like, those games never go on sale. So not buying a Nintendo game when it comes out is like, you might as well do it if you have the money because the game's never going to go on sale. The only game that I've seen like actually go for like a cheap price is Super Mario RPG. I've seen that game go for like $20. And like for a first-party Nintendo game, I mean, shit. If you don't even like RPGs, you should buy it because it's just a great game. And you'll never probably find a Nintendo game cheaper than that. But the problem with this price is now that we're going to start having these games come out, and what justifies Mario Kart World being $80 or $90, but a new Legend of Zelda game isn't, or the Donkey Kong game isn't? Like, what? Now we have no set price for these games, so basically they're just able to set it however they want. And I get it, they probably justify it by like how much the game costs to develop, hours, maybe how much content is in it, because you are going to get more content in Mario Kart World than you will with this Donkey Kong game, because Mario Kart you can just play endless. They've got the free roam now, and like you can always just play with friends. Like Donkey Kong, you beat that story, you're probably not touching that game for a few months or a year. You know, we'll use Mario Odyssey as an example. Great game, but like once you beat Mario Odyssey, you know, you may go back and you may 100% it, but once you beat it, you're probably not playing that game for another year. You know, you're gonna wait to replay that game, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, we have to have a standard setting for price, because I fear that, especially now with these fucking stupid tariffs that have been put in, I feel like a lot of people are just going to be priced out of this console, and it's a real shame, because they actually like put so much care. I mean, obviously I haven't had my hands on it, but like you can tell that they actually rebuilt this thing from the ground up, wanting to actually make a better console, like not do like the Wii U situation where it really does just feel like this is just like a hardware upgrade. Like they really, I feel like, tried with this thing, and now with all this shit that's happening, a lot of people are going to be priced out, and that fucking sucks. And like already people were mad about the price of the games, but if this console ends up with these tariffs being like $600, dude, no one is going to be able to afford, in today's economy, if you live in the US, no one is going to be able to afford a $600-700 console with games that are also $80. You know, like I mean, of course I will be getting one, but like you know, I can afford it. Not everyone can. Not everyone's in my situation, so I can afford it. Okay, I've been saving up money for it for a minute now, so it doesn't matter. But does that justify, like, obviously the console pricing isn't Nintendo's fault, but these games, man, like it's just ridiculous. And I know, like, I hate that argument. Everyone's like, well, if we adjust for inflation, fuck off. Okay, games haven't been $60 for a while anyways. Yes, you can buy the base game for $60, but there's the deluxe edition, the digital deluxe edition, the special edition, you know, like like all that shit. So like, don't fucking sit here and act like these games have been $60 for the whole time. You know, it's just so annoying, people's arguments for this. Quit justifying these price hikes for no reason. Quit. Like, it's so. The problem is too, with games coming up, we'll use this game as an example. Now, I'm not a GTA fan. I don't really like open world games. But GTA 6, there's the rumor that it's going to be $100 fucking dollars. All right, that game has been in development. You could say for like 12 years, because what, GTA 5 came out in 2013, right? So 12, 11 years, because we'll say maybe they took a year off. That game's been in development for that long. They want to come out with this game. The base game wants to be $100. Now, again, this is not confirmed, but there's that rumor that it's going to be $100 when it comes out. If this game comes out and it is $100 with this long ass development time, that game better be fucking perfect. I don't want one single game breaking bug. There better be no glitches. There better be no weird textures. The game better not crash. The game better be fucking perfect. I'm not talking about like server issues with like GTA Online or anything. You know, that's different. Even then though, GTA knows how big their fucking game is, so there shouldn't be server crashes. And Rockstar makes a shit ton of money, so their servers should be ready for the influx of players that will definitely come from that fucking game. But that is the problem that we are going to start leaning into, is that games have more than ever had problems. And yes, games are super expensive to make, and companies obviously want their games to come out. They want to start making that money back, and I get that. But we are having games that are coming out with more bugs. Like, we'll use let me use Jedi Survivor for example. Like, the PC port for that game was god fucking awful, and that game had been being developed for fucking years, and who knows how much money was in that. And like, that just shouldn't come out. Like, a $70 game should not come out with that many issues. And so that's the problem we're going to start leaning into, is these games are going to be worth all this money, and they're going to come out with these day one patches and be dog shit. Like, they're going to be broken little glitchy messes, and it's going to then start being like, well, you're charging more for this product, but my product that I'm getting is just keeps getting worse and worse. Like, it doesn't matter how much content is in this game, how good the story is of this game, how good the gameplay is. I can't play the fucking game because it's crashing, it's glitchy, it's this mess. And you know, and obviously, like, some of that's on the publisher and shit too, because, you know, how much time constraints they put on the developers and stuff. But that's the issues that we're going to start getting into, is that they're going to start being held at this higher standard. You know, like a good example or a good contrast is like movie theaters. Like movie theaters are so expensive, and if you really like Marvel movies, it's like a lot of the Marvel movies and superhero movies, and honestly just a lot of movies in general have been kind of like dog shit, or they're, you know, recently, and it's like you can't justify going and spending how much it costs to go to a movie theater if you're going to go see a movie that sucks ass when you can just wait for it to be on streaming. And so like now with, you know, with games, it is going to be that thing where it's just like, okay, Mario Kart World is $80, but it comes out and the fucking online is a shit show, and there's tons of glitches and some things don't work. Then it's like, okay, well, what's the point of me spending this $80, you know? And so that's just really, and then like I've never been one of those people where it's like, how I justify like buying my games is like $1 an hour. You know, I've never been one of those people, because I just think that takes all the fun out of gaming, and most of the games you're going to buy aren't going to be, you know, 70-hour games. Okay. So I haven't been one of those people, but you know, we are going to have to have some of those conversations where it's like, I do think like the perfect game length is 15 to 20 hours. I think that's great, but you're going to have those people that are going to be like, I'm not spending $70 for 20 hours of enjoyment, you know? And that's totally justifiable, you know? So that's just the issue that I have. Not really, I don't know what I'm really, like, what I'm saying right now, like what I'm saying right here, but it just like, that's like the problem that we're going to be coming across with, is just like how to justify the prices. And who knows, they might even go up even more. We have no idea. We have no idea. And then this thing also then reflects onto the other games and other companies. Like now, like Sony's gonna be looking at this shit and be like, well, why the fuck can't we charge $100 for The Last of Us 3 when that game comes out? Or whatever other, what's the other new Naughty Dog game that they're working on, the space game? I don't remember the fucking name of it, but like, why can't we charge $100 for that game? You know, or the next God of War, or the next Spider-Man, you know, or Wolverine when it comes out. Like that's the problem. It's where we're gonna come to, is just like, why can't they charge these games? And also remember that for the first at least year or 2 years of this Switch, a lot of these games are going to be held back, because they're going to be making Switch 1 ports of them too. Pokemon Legends ZA is getting a Switch port. Metroid Prime 4 Switch 1 port. I don't think Donkey Kong is, but I could be wrong. And I don't think Mario Kart World is, which is fair, because like they probably need the new power of the Switch for that whole game. But like a lot of these games are going to get these ports, and they're going to be held back a little bit. So like they're not even going to be at their full, like, I don't know, you know, power or whatever, you know, they're not going to look their best. So it's just things to think of. And I just really wanted to come on here and talk about it, because I really do like Nintendo, and I really do like their games. And you know, I am no shill for any company. I just love video games, and I just want to see this industry continue to thrive, and I just want my hobby to be as accessible and affordable to not just myself, but to anybody. I want everyone to play games. I think there's a game for everybody, you know, and games are just such a wonderful hobby to play. They are relaxing, or they can test you know, your mind, and games are just such a nice form of media. And it's just really sad that, and I understand the world revolves around money. That's nothing new, but it's just really sad to see how greedy these companies are getting, and how much we're being taken advantage of. And you know, they're the like sentiment or metaphor or whatever the fuck you want to call it is like truer than ever. You know, like, speak with your wallet. You know, we do need to show these companies that they can't just do this shit to us. But that was just my thoughts. I think the console reveal was done great. I lots of games shown off, way more than I expected. I honestly thought the Direct was just going to be them showing the console, and that was going to be it, and we were just going to get the price. But they did way more than I thought they did. The Direct for me was like a 9 out of 10. You know, I thought it was perfect, but these prices, they do scare me. And you know, especially with these tariffs and shit, we still have no idea how much this thing is going to cost. And so I'm sure I'll make a video once I find out, or once we find out. I said I'm in the fucking background, but excited for this console to come out, and hopefully everything goes smoothly with it, and you know, hopefully these games come out and they're good and they're worth the money they are. But if they're not, you know, then we have to have a even more serious conversation about it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts about all this, and you know, just chime in when you can. You know, subscribe if you want to or whatever. I'm hopefully going to keep making more videos and stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to get my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch situation, and thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.